Welcome to the Village, a place where we bring together various adults to respond to teenage questions. I'm really excited about this. We have a great collection of adults on board here. I need to make sure I do this disclaimer, because I know that this is very important. So I need to make a disclaimer, guys. All right, that, this program is for information purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for mental health counseling or financial counseling or legal counseling. If you are in need of specific help, please seek professional support, all right? So we just want to make that disclaimer. We're just here. This is we're like family members just coming together, because it really does take a village to raise a child. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that every person needs to play their part to be a positive influence, because we all do have an impact on the lives of each other's. Mindsets are contagious, So I'm really excited about this first episode of The Village. We're going to jump right in because we only have like an hour. So we're going to jump right in. But first, I want to start first with just a very quick prayer, all right? Dear God, please watch over us. Please lead us and guide us as we discuss and respond to these teenage questions. Please give us wisdom. Please give us insight. Thank you so much. Amen. All right, and now let's start with, let's go around the Zoom and just, just do some brief introductions. So you just tell us your name and you'll tell us your title or titles, okay? So I'll start. I'll say, I'm Lance Smith, also known as Clay Smile. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a dancer, and I'm a real estate investor. Angela?
Hi guys, I'm Angela Harper. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I am a group practice owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a mother of two beautiful girls. I'm a lover of arts, and I'm a dancer, singer, and I love what I do.
Awesome. Fabian?
Hi everyone, my name is Fabienne Sandoval. I'm in London in the United Kingdom. I'm a self-worth coach and I'm also an author.
Awesome. Paula?
Hi everyone, my name is Paula Bird. I am in Baltimore, Maryland as well. I'm a mother of 3, ages 24, 21, and 5. I know, jaw drop, pick it back up. I'm a mental health therapist. I also own, I'm co-owner of an organization called Unleashing Potential, where we provide PRP and business support services. And I used to dance. Does that count? Because I feel like everybody said they dance.
All right. Awesome. Here's the question. Can you do the Cupid shuffle? That's all.
Yes, I can. I can.
All right. Now, Jonathan.
My name is Jonathan Troen. I am here in Austin, Texas. I am a life mastery coach. I am a chief life officer, which means I don't rely on other people to give me titles or give me permission. I'm the chief of my own life, and that's what we all need to be. And I'm the creator of the Self-Love Revolution, which is a program for you. It's really the new pathway to success. If you want to achieve full success, that means money, but it also means everything else, love, health, relationships, all of it. You got to start with yourself. Self-Love Revolution.
Excellent. Mike?
What's up, everybody? Mike Burchard here out of Hartford, Connecticut, also known as Mikey Blaze. I feel like I'm like the low man on the totem pole. I'm no life coach. I'm no dancer, but I am a DJ owner. I have several businesses, including real estate, accounting, and just an all-around cool guy, I guess. And here to provide some comic relief, I guess. So
love it.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Lance.
Yes. And Jen?
Hey everyone, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. I'm Jen Fontanilla, certified money coach, author, and a speaker. I'm also the founder and CEO of Queen Up Life, where I help women build and create their ultimate life without worrying about money so that they can gain clarity, hope, and confidence by also mastering their money and their mindset. And since we're speaking about dancing, I will also give my 2 cents. I was a competitive dancer. I also co-founded a hip hop team, and they are now competing. And so, Mike, I also wanted to reassure you that if we did not have you and your music, we could not dance. So thank you.
Ah, good point.
I appreciate that. I got a shout
You're
out.
welcome.
Excellent. I love it. So we're going to jump right in. And also, if you guys are watching on Facebook, please be interactive with us, right? You know, and as we're going through 15 questions along with some follow-up questions. For each question, we would love for you guys to participate with us. So type into the chat box your responses to these questions, and Jen will incorporate you into our discussion. So we're going to jump right in. Guys, here's what we got to do though. We got to make sure that we keep our responses very short and concise, all right? 30 seconds maximum, 30 seconds, all right? All right, so here it is. Let's start with our first question. All right, first question is this. Oh, by the way, I need to do a disclaimer real quick disclaimer. This program is for information purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for mental health counseling or financial counseling or legal counseling. If you are in need of specific help, please seek professional support. All right? So now that that's out of the way, let's jump right in. This is just a group discussion. We're like family just talking, right? And this whole thing about the village, right? It takes a village to raise a child. It really does. It really does. And each person must play their role, play their part. So question number one is this. During this tough time of social distancing and virtual school, it is very easy for students to feel overwhelmed, lonely, depressed, or unmotivated. What is your advice to those that are struggling? And I'll start by saying, you know, one thing I think it's important to keep in mind is that where focus goes, energy flows. And that, you know, there's things that we can control and there's things that we can't control. And so I think it's so important that we all try to focus on the things that we can control and really notice that there are pieces of fortune that are inside of misfortune. So, Angela?
So, you know, dealing with that, you know, about the focus and where it flows, I also think another piece is that, you know, we need to acknowledge, we also need to recognize and really take a look at how much that this has affected us and letting everyone know that these emotions are natural. This is something that we have all gone through at some point in our life. And then, you know, the whole concept of this platform right now is that we all have to come together. And we all have to, again, be transparent with one another, letting each other know that from childhood to adult, we are facing these type of emotions and these type of feelings. And hopefully, you know, from each village member, we can all play a part in planting a seed of hope, of life, and also encouragement, you know, in regards to that you can make it another day and this won't last forever.
Awesome. Fabian?
Mm-hmm.
I think off the back of what you were saying, I would just say around the piece around the things that you can control. So if you are struggling, feeling overwhelmed, feeling lonely, feeling like you're a bit lost at this time, then focus on the things you can control. So I would say create a positive morning routine. It just means that when you're getting ready for bed at night, you're going to be thinking about what you're going to do, how you're going to start your day in the morning. And if you start your day in a really positive, happy way, that's going to set you up for the rest of the day. So think about maybe 1, 2, 3 things that you really, really love to do, however small they are, and incorporate that into your day at the very, very beginning. And that way that's going to kind of set you off on the right foot.
Excellent. Paula?
So I'm saying something similar because I was thinking the same thing. Basically, it's important to really think about those things that you're good at, the gifts that you have, your talents and abilities, and think about how you can use those to uplift somebody else. Because it's very difficult right now. This is a new situation for all of us. No one is used to quarantine and homeschooling, and you probably saw my little one popping in and out. I'm trying to keep her out of here. It's a struggle. But we're all struggling and trying to adjust to this new way of life or new normal. And sometimes we're not able to get out and maybe join a protest or do whatever else you might want to do in the community. But think about what you can do and take some time to do those things. If it's painting, paint. If you can give a word of encouragement to a friend, do that.
Excellent. Jonathan?
So 2 things. One is there's nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken and you do not need to be.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to start there and know that. The second thing is people spoke about control. So how do we gain control out of things we don't have? You have to write it down. When you're overwhelmed, take every thought in your head of what it is that you think you need to do or supposed to do or just that's running around there. Write it down. Get a sheet of paper out. It can be a nice journal. It can be just one of those ugly legal pads. Write it down. Get it out of your head and onto a sheet of paper. And once you see it, then you can figure out what to do with it. Then you can begin to take control of it. But it's very difficult to manage and control things when they're swirling around in your mind. Write it down.
Excellent. Mike?
So I'm not going to go such the philosophical route, but I appreciate everybody's opinion. I'm more of a doer, so constantly be doing something. I say it this way: the idle mind wanders into dark territories. So for me personally, I pretty much lost my entire business during this COVID, and sat back and at one point sat on the couch and actually said, I'm just going to wait until the lights turn off. And that was my loneliest, darkest place I've been in the last 20 years. What changed it was getting off the couch and doing laundry, cleaning the kitchen, taking the dog for a walk, doing something which motivates you to the next step. Everything is in steps in life. So taking a small step and keeping yourself moving, because once you have motion, it's hard to stop.
Excellent, excellent. And Jen, I know you are monitoring the Facebook. So any activity in the Facebook, and also Jen, we would love for you to chime in your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I will say that I resonate with what everyone has said so far. One of the things that I've done with my own son, he's 9 years old, as kids, teens, you have been sitting in front of a monitor for an ungodly amount of time. And so I think this is a time for us to remember that we need to take time to reground and to get grounded, whether that's walking in sand, walking in the dirt, putting your feet in grass, and just reconnecting with nature and letting your spirit get filled again, because we are in front of so much technology for such a long period of time. So for example, I took my son last night to the beach. I'm in Southern California. Don't hate me. I'm about 20 minutes away. We just go to the beach and we just put our feet in the water, and it just fills your soul. So I think that's very, very helpful to replenish that feeling within you when you reconnect with nature.
That's awesome.
Definitely no hate, but definitely jelly.
Right. Yeah, it's getting cold up there in Connecticut, Mike, isn't it?
I won't even discuss it.
It's getting cold here in Maryland even, So
that's true, yeah.
It's 90 here.
Wow.
Oh.
So I got
activity in the Facebook. Anybody responding? You're watching on Facebook. Can you type in where you're watching from and maybe a response? No, nothing yet. Hey. Okay. All right. Now let's move on to question number two. Question number two is this: could you share some motivational quotes that you think will resonate with students right now? So I would say two come to mind. Number one, that life is not happening to you, life is happening for you. And I feel like I know it sounds so cliche, but if we really can just, have that attitude that life is happening for us in some way, somehow, even though we can't really see it, but that somehow even these problems are going to work together and be for our benefit. If we can have that type of attitude, then we can start to position ourselves to see the blessings that are inside of the problems even, the fortune that's inside of the misfortune. And the second one is this, is to stay in an attitude of gratitude. Gratitude is so powerful, right? When we're grateful, it's amazing how, we become more aware of more things to be grateful for, and it's just amazing how, gratitude is such a powerful emotion. So, Angela?
Again, piggying back kind of off of, sounds like, the undertone of what you were talking about is kind of like faith, right? Faith, and also kind of like what Jen was talking about, even in regards to the spiritual grounding. And one of my quotes that I always really deem from is, remember that the struggle that you're in today is developing you. for where you're going and for the strength that you're going to need tomorrow. Because struggle is inevitable, right? This is something that we are going to face. And it's just like a weight, you know, especially if you're in the gym, it's like a weight and you practice it. You have to understand how to balance it, right? And so this is something that you've got to face, you have to challenge. But again, you know, it's building up endurance, it's building up that faith, and it's grounding you. It's developing you for who you're going to be tomorrow. So, yeah.
Fabian?
So I would say that one of the favorite ones that I have right now is accepting and working through your imperfections is its own version of perfection. So I think so many people, especially children, are under so much pressure these days to be kind of perfect or to be a certain way with so much social media and this kind of stuff available. So just thinking about the fact that you don't need to be some kind of perfect, but you can just accept yourself as who you are and work through any of those imperfections you have and just be at peace with who you are as an individual and accept that you're unique.
Paula?
I have two. One might be found in the Bible, perhaps. It's all things work together for the good, which is the same thing that you were saying, Lance, and really was underlying what you were saying, Angela. I think we're all on the same page. So no matter what's going on, just trusting and believing that all things work together for the good. So even those things that seem negative in the moment actually are going to be something that you will learn and grow from and work to your benefit in the end. And the other is something my father said to me when I started graduate school and I was feeling kind of anxious, a little overwhelmed. And he said, you know, you do the best you can do, and that's all you can do. Nobody can ask you to do better than your best. So that's it.
Jonathan?
So I love affirmations and statements, and I've become a big fan of questions. Because what questions do, when you ask a question, it sends your subconscious mind on a search for the answer, and it will not stop until it gets an answer. So I suggest asking questions. Why am I great? What makes me great? How am I already awesome? Because if you ask what's wrong with me, you will get the answer. But if you ask, what's great? What's right with me? You'll also get the answer. And even, you know, piggybacking on what you were saying before, Lance, you know, life is happening for me. This is going on. Why is this happening for me? And it changes the whole way your brain seeks about giving you an answer. And whatever answer you get, that's what you're going to feel inside.
Mike?
So being the DJ that I am, I live by this quote. Life will ask you to dance, but you get to pick the song. So, which breaks down to, in life, it's inevitable. Maybe one day you'll have to do the two-step, one day the cha-cha, and one day maybe a slow dance with something that's uncomfortable. But in the long run, you are completely in control of what you put yourself through life, and you don't have to live by anybody else's standards, nor do you have to really, you know, care what other people think. So being the left-footed dancer that I am, that's why I play the music and I pick the songs.
And guys, if you're watching, please type into the chat box, what is your response to this question in terms of motivational quotes that you find to be useful going through this hard time dealing with COVID, you know? Jen?
I love what everyone said so far. The one that I think is so perfect, not just even for kids and teens, but I think as adults, we need to hear this. Breathe, darling. This is just a chapter, not your whole story. And I think we get so stuck in seeing, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. This is happening to me, and everything that everyone said so far. And you have to remember, when you look at the timeline of life and of time, and especially if you're a believer, you know that's an infinite line because of what we really believe where we go afterwards. This is just a blip. This is just a tiny speck in the giant timeline of life. And so when we can remember that, it gives you a global perspective. It gives you a more universal perspective. And I know that's hard to hear right now because it's probably not making you feel any better, but when you can at least step back and take a deep breath, give yourself some grace, you'll remember, okay, this is just one moment in time, and think about all the other hardships and challenges that you have overcome, and you look back like, wow, I went through that. This is no different.
Question number three. And guys, if you're watching, please type into the chat box your response. Question number 3 is this. What do you think are some healthy coping strategies for mental health issues? Mindfulness activities, exercising, music, etc. So I would say that one of the things, and as Fabian had mentioned this about a morning routine, you know, for me personally, having a good morning routine has been a game changer. Being able to go to sleep early so that I can wake up early and have that time in the morning where I'm free of distractions to really focus on self-care of like exercise and you know, devotional reading, Bible study, and journaling, and prioritizing, and vision casting, goal setting, all that has been just so precious to me, because it just helps me to start the day with great momentum, you know? Angela?
So there's so many platforms. Let me first start off by saying we are at a peak of mental health, of wellness, of fitness since all of this has happened. I've never seen so many people outside hiking, biking, you know, actually doing things with their families, right? Cherishing these moments, right? Getting outdoors with, you know, social distancing. But once, you know, you find that routine, you know, don't aim for perfection. You take one day at a time. Find something that works for you, right? Find something that works for you, and you do just that. And one thing that I like to say is that, you know, even in all of this, the routine, don't forget to laugh. Don't forget to dance. Don't forget to have fun, because there's so many from social media platforms, from medical professionals who are saying, do this, do that. But again, the finer things in life, the simple things in life of laughter, of dance, it increases our feel-good hormones called endorphins, right? And it just takes us to that next day, brings that connection, right? So that would be my thing, Lance.
Mm-hmm. Fabian?
Yeah.
So I think I would probably come back to something that Jonathan started to speak about in one of the previous questions. For me, writing therapy or morning pages is something that I just find so powerful first thing in the morning. So Morning Pages is by an author called Julia Cameron, and she basically says that you should just stream your thoughts onto a page for 3 pages long, just till you get everything out of your brain, basically. And when you start doing it, you think, how could I ever possibly fill 3 pages? But the reality of it is we spend most of our time these days on Zooms, texting, calling, emailing, you know, everything. Of course, you have something to say on the paper. So get it down, do that as your first practice of the day. And it really just kind of clears everything out. And you can use that writing as a way to create positive changes in your life.
Mm-hmm. Paula?
Okay, so I'm listening to everything that you all are saying, and thinking about one of the things Angela said, which is finding what works best for you. I don't believe, even in my therapy practice, that there's a one size fits all. So what works for me, what works for Angela, what works for Mike might not work for somebody else. And so you really have to be in touch with yourself and figure out what your coping skills are. If you need help with that, there are mental health professionals who are trained to help you to do that. But the other part of it is, especially in these trying times, is just really being grateful. So, you know, you hear a lot of people saying, oh my gosh, I'm homeschooling. I just said a second ago, I'm trying to manage doing this and a 5-year-old running around. But I'm grateful because I realized that every day that she's with me, had it not been for quarantine, she would be in school. I'd be dropping her off at 8 in the morning and not picking her up until 5:30 or so in the evening. And now I'm with her all day, every day. And I'm grateful that we have that time together. My older 2 kids are home because college is closed, and my one decided to come home and help us out when this hit, and he's lost his job because of COVID. So they would not be here if it wasn't for this virus. And I'm grateful that they're here, and all 3 of them get to spend time together. I live with my grandmother and my parents, so it's like a whole multi-generational household full of things to be grateful for. So although, yes, we're stuck in the house together. We have each other to lean on. And even if you're living alone, there are things to be grateful for. You have time that you can pursue your interests that you normally wouldn't have time to do. So.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan?
I just want to say I love what you said, Paula, because it piggybacks on what Lance was saying before, a little what I said before is, why is this happening for me? Well, that's why it's happening for you, because you get to be with your family. And morning routines are awesome. I personally have difficulty with morning routines. I have a child, I'm tired, so I focus on evening routines. So if you do it in the morning, do it in the morning. But you know what? Evening routines. And I'm going to say gratitude as well. My life in the evening was this. I'd brush my teeth, I would look in the mirror, and I'd review everything that went wrong with the day, even a good day. I'd pick the 1 or 2 things that didn't go right, and I'd focus on those. And then I'd go to sleep miserable, I'd wake up miserable, and that's how I'd start my day. Totally different now. Every day is filled with things that go well and things that didn't go how you wanted them to go. So I acknowledge things that didn't go well, that's fine. And then I focus on things that I did well. I focus on gratitude. I focus, if there's one thing I did great, I go, hey, Jonathan, I look in the mirror, I go, Jonathan, good job doing whatever, good job showing up to Lance's event at the village. Good job. That's what I will do when I look in the mirror tonight. And I will have gratitude for the fact that I came here together with everybody. So pick, even if it's just one thing, pick one thing, look at the mirror at night. While you're brushing your teeth, you don't need any extra time. Pick one thing and focus on it. And name yourself. I am grateful for this happening in my life.
Mike?
So again, I appreciate everything that everybody said, but I'm more of an actionable type person. So I'm going to rewind back to what I said before. It's doing something. It's accomplishing something. If that's anything from exercise to going outside to doing yard work to folding laundry, keeping yourself busy is a coping mechanism in and of itself. And feeling that sense of accomplishment, even on the smallest scale, even sitting in front of the mirror, brushing your teeth, morning and night, it to me, getting that to that stage in life where you can say, I've accomplished this or I've accomplished that. Well, yes, that's great, but you need to have those accomplishments. You need to make those accomplishments for yourself. And no other time in life will we be able to say that we pressed pause and we were able to accomplish X, Y, and Z, because now it's all up to us personally on how much we want to grow from here. So,
Jen?
So I'm going to go the opposite direction. Although I love being busy and productive and taking action, I think for someone like me, I think it's very important for us to stop and pause and just simply remember to breathe. I see too much of people being frantic and anxious and just running around, even if you're in quarantine. And I think it's so important, even God says, be still. Be still. I think we forget that sometimes. And so I know it's important for us to be busy and take action, but also balance that out. And maybe that coping mechanism is like tapping into that creative side of you, painting, pottery, gardening. I saw so many people creating their own home gardens, and it's just like really nice to see people becoming creative in such a time like this. So, but again, like Paula said, whatever works for you, you do that.
Question number four. And guys, if you're watching on Facebook, please join our conversation by typing your responses into the chat box. Question number 4. She says, I am not sure this applies and if you feel comfortable sharing, but have you had experiences with mental health? What are some things that help you get through those tough times? When I think about my life, I think about how by the grace of God, I've been very fortunate. I've never, had any type of severe mental issues. However, I have gone through some issues with like self-concept and self-image issues. And one of the things, because when I was younger, I had delayed speech and I had reading problems, and I was in the special ed, and then I had this starting in middle school, I had a little bit of a stutter, and it started this little social awkwardness, and that's even carried over where it's like, even I tend to kind of struggle sometimes in social settings and stuff, and there's been certain things in terms of relationships that I think are like blind spots where I need to overcome. I still need to work through and stuff. But having said all that, is that one of the things that has helped me so much in just being able to deal with the shame that comes with having flaws and stuff and issues is one of the things is this mindset that our adversity is our advantage to comfort and inspire others who are going through similar situations. And that's been so comforting to me just to realize that, wow, you know what? These flaws and these mistakes and these things that are, you know, flaws in my life, that I can actually use these same flaws as a tool to reach out and show other people that they're not alone, and to encourage other people to, you know, continue to work hard and strive to improve, but also to enjoy the process, to really love the life you have as you build the life you want. You know, it's a big motto that I've developed working through issues, because, you know, I have realized that I'll never be perfect, but I can, you know, truly, you know, embrace where I am right now, and at the same time be fully motivated to improve where I am. And I can be transparent about my flaws, because I know that there's somebody out there that's experiencing similar issues, and my example can be a source of comfort and inspiration for them. Yeah. Angela?
So as a younger in college, I really suffered from severe anxiety, which I knew then. And that was due to constant, as a child and growing up in a single family home. My mom was a single mom. And the pressure that I felt as the oldest child to uphold certain expectations. I went to a college and, you know, on her scholarship. And I was again, just going, a lot of peer pressure. I was the president of certain things. I had academics on my mind. I was the youth president. And so a lot of my adulthood was basically performative, right? Performative, not actually understanding my identity. And so from that, suffered or suppressed anxiety turned into panic attacks. And so those panic attacks led me into hospitalization. Through hospitalization, I was referred to a social worker. And from that social worker, I understood certain things that I had dealt with in my childhood was so suppressed that they were coming out in my later years, right? College, adulthood, affecting relationships, right? Affecting intimate relationships, relational relationships. And then that turned into understanding that I did have PTSD from, you know, when my father left. He left at an earlier age. And so some of those things I had to confront. You know, when Jen was talking about sometimes we have to be still. We have to be still in order for us to understand what really is taking place in our mind, in our spirit, in our body, that we continuously work over, right? We don't take the time to stop and think. Counseling for me and mental health for me was kind of like the saving grace of what actually, when I look in the mirror, I understood what I needed to do, who I needed to confront, and the resolutions that I needed to bring to myself in order to bring healing. And so I share that testimony and, you know, that story with a lot of even my members in appropriate self-disclosure, because again, we're overcome by each other's stories, right? And so if I overcame, you can overcome.
Fabian?
Thanks for sharing that, Angela. That was really powerful. I also have a kind of a similar story in a sense. Like my dad left when I was 14. I have a
same age.
Yeah. I have single mom, you know, eldest child, like literally like tick, we got the same story, girl. So that's kind of crazy, but I have an anxious attachment style. So there's 3 kinds of attachment styles that you can have. One of them is secure, so meaning that you feel secure and comfortable. Other one is anxious, so feeling a sense of anxiety about your relationships with your loved ones. And then there's avoidance, so being avoidant, so seeking more independence and kind of solidarity in the way that you kind of operate your relationships. So for me, I have an anxious attachment style. So that really comes through not so much in my relationships with women, but really in my relationships with men, due to the fact that my father left. And that anxiety for me comes up a lot in relationships, but it also at a certain point started to take over other parts of my life too. And I think the thing with anxiety is, you know, sometimes it comes up and you can get it under control and you know what you're doing. And then other times, other days, it comes through and it's overwhelming and you don't know what to do. So I think from my perspective and the things that I've gone through, I would just say, aim not to focus on judging those feelings. Like, as you can see from both Andrew and I, we've had kind of reasons of why that anxiety will have come through in our lives. There's things that have caused it. So when it does come up, choose to use it as an opportunity to think that maybe there's something that needs to be changed. And maybe that's actually an opportunity to reconnect with yourself and understand, okay, what do I need to do for me in this moment? And that could be any one of the things that all of you lovely people have shared today, you know, things like getting still or actually being busy and doing something. There could be a number of different things, but really just focus on using that anxiety as a signal to do something differently. And that's how you can navigate it.
Paula?
My story is a little different. My parents are still together, 55 years in this December, so yay them. But I actually suffered from postpartum depression after my third child, which many women experience and many don't talk about. I found that the more open I am about it, it's amazing how many other women have come to me and shared their stories. My postpartum was extreme, not in that I didn't want to hold my child. It wasn't, that happens for some people. That wasn't my experience. I was able to take care of her and I wanted to hold her and love her. I just was extraordinarily depressed outside of that. And it really spiraled out of control when I went back to work. My anxiety levels were through the roof. I had no sense of security or self-esteem. So I questioned everything that I did. And I was suicidal every second of every day. So if I passed a window, it was like, I can jump out of that. If I went to cross the street, if I jump in front of this car real quick, like it was constantly on my mind. I cried all the time. I was in a supervisory role and I was supervising people in different areas. So I always had to drive from one place to the next. And in driving, sorry, there she is. I told you she'd pop in. Okay, bye-bye. In driving from one place to the next, I would find myself just crying all the time. And I just knew that everybody I was supervising knew that I was crying all the time. Apparently they did not. I don't know how, because I felt like my eyes were constantly swollen. But ultimately, I was able to, very soon after I went back to work, I got in touch with a therapist. And he saved my life. And I don't mean that figuratively. He literally saved my life. I was blessed. He just was a person who was on call for me. I called him sometimes at 7 o'clock in the morning saying, I can't do it today. I can't do it. And he'd say, yes, you can. You can. You're going to make it through this day. He gave me all the possible coping skills you can imagine, and really was there for me for a solid 9 months. And at that point, I finally saw a psychiatrist and she was ready to put me in the hospital. And my parents like panicked. Who's going to take care of her kid? She can't go to the hospital. And so he said, I will see her at least 3 days a week. I'll come to her house. I'll make sure that she's okay. We're not going to hospitalize her. And the psychiatrist was like, okay, well then she needs to take at least 3 weeks off from work. We need to put her on medication. Like, you've done everything you can possibly do. And he was saying I was, a compliant patient. I did everything he told me to do. It just wasn't enough for me. I had a chemical imbalance as a result of a hormonal change during my pregnancy. So the medication helped. It did. But the therapist really kept me going while all of that was getting put into place. So that's my story.
Jonathan?
We tend to be our own biggest bullies. Many of us have the story, I certainly did, of I'm not enough. It didn't matter how successful I was. It didn't matter the amazing things I did. And I spent 20 years in Hollywood and I did amazing things. I met people that I dreamed of meeting. I lived 3 blocks from the beach and could see the sunset out of my window, and still I was miserable. because in my head, I still wasn't enough. I was comparing myself to others, and there's always someone who's doing something more than you. We have to begin to become our own friends. We have to begin to practice kindness. And I think it was Lance that said it. Yeah, we are here to be kind to others. You were put on this planet. If you weren't supposed to be connected to others, you know, there are 7 billion of us. There are billions of planets. We'd all have our own planet. But we're all here. So we are here to be kind and to help other people. But the kinder we are to ourselves, the kinder we can be to other people. Because when we spend the whole day beating ourselves up, we need to end up taking that out on someone. And that's going to be someone else who might be weaker than we are. Practice kindness to yourself. Become your own best friend. When you're sitting there, think if your friend was there. What would you say to your friend in the same position as you're in? And then you say that to yourself. We have to practice becoming our own best friends. And that's when our relationships with ourselves, our mental health changes. I will also say movement, very important. I don't care if it's dancing. I do yoga. Do some yoga. Yes, medication works. So I certainly applaud that. And when you move your body, yoga, particular poses, they are prescriptions in Ayurvedic medicine. They send chemicals. They release chemicals from your brain into the body. So it is literally taking medication. So if you don't want yoga, fine. Dance, run, hike, but begin to medicate yourself with movement from your body.
Mike?
So my story doesn't roll back, even though my childhood does have some ups and downs, but I think everybody's does. Mine actually is very recent and very much connected to COVID. I'm a DJ. I own an entertainment business, and as of March 15th, 2020, I will never forget that date for the rest of my life, because I thought 20 years of hard work literally went out the window. I spoke about it a little bit earlier. There was a moment where I literally sat on my couch and said, I'm just going to wait for everything to turn off. Electricity, the cable, I was just going to wait until everything turned off. And I pretty much gave up. And the reason I've been harping so much on doing something is because within the 3 weeks of March 15th, I guess luckily have a mirrored coffee table, and I was sitting at on my couch with a full cake from my last event with a fork, eating that cake, because between those 3 weeks of time, I actually put on 21 pounds. So I'm a emotional eater. I enjoy food, but I happened to catch a glimpse of myself in that mirror and literally had that Jesus moment where I said, what am I doing? And it took getting off the couch. That was the first step. It was doing laundry was the second step. It was getting a part-time job. I have 3 fully functioning businesses, but due to COVID, none of them were operational. So it was just taking every small step to get myself back up. And as of this morning, I am now 62 pounds down. My 3 businesses are now bigger than they were pre-COVID. I am bringing back employees very slowly, but we're bringing them back. And I'm here talking with all these cool people. So I think that, and I've gotten rid of a lot of toxic people out of my life too. I've gained the confidence in myself to get rid of toxic people and focus on myself. And it takes starting up here to change down here is what I've always told people. But at the same time, taking those small steps and feeling the accomplishments that come with every small step. You don't have to run a marathon. You could just, walk a few feet and, all of a sudden you're, 2 feet farther or, 2 feet closer to what you want than you were a day ago. So that's my personal story with COVID. And that's why I actually wanted to come on this show, is to tell people that COVID is an absolute depressing thing, but it's one of the most magical things that has happened to me in my life at this moment. I haven't had the chance to press pause and catch up on everything else that I kind of said I'd get to someday. So that's my story.
Mhm.
Guys, if you're watching on Facebook, please type into the chat box your responses. And Jen, I know at least we have some responses by now. So can you give us a report on what people are saying in the chat box?
Yeah, so we have Rosette Vanessa. She made some great comments about a lot of the things that some of us over here have mentioned, and we just want to read a few of them. She said, empathy and kindness. Empathy equals feeling or understanding how someone else is feeling, which is so important, especially what's happening right now. And she also mentioned about when too many times we do too much comparing. And that is so true. Especially social media. We're looking at what we're doing. We're looking at, or maybe even worse, we're looking at what we're not doing. And just like Jonathan mentioned, what are you saying to yourself in the mirror? Or maybe not even in front of the mirror, but in your own mind. What is it that you're saying? What is it that you are focusing on? And you never know what you're comparing. You don't know if you're comparing yourself to somebody's highlight reel. You have to remember that. You don't know what you're comparing yourself to. And so here's another thing Rosette said. She said, comparison is the thief of joy. So I think it was just really great for Rosette to share those thoughts with us. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Now I have a follow-up question based on what Rosette said, about the comparison thing. Yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah, everyone has a unique purpose, and so there's no use to compare. At the same time, success leaves clues. Everyone that's successful lays out a blueprint. And I think that it is very, very important for us to look at successful people and try to figure out, okay, what are the strategies? Like, let me give an example, and this might not be a good example, but it's something that's recent. Trump paying only $750 in taxes. We got to understand the tax law favors the property owners and the business owners. So whoever Trump's lawyers are, tax attorneys are, it could be a situation where they're doing some shady stuff, or it could be a situation where they are just wise business people, and maybe we can glean some good insights regarding how they're doing their taxes. So again, it's not a very good analogy, but what I'm saying is that success leaves footprints, blueprints.
I was going to say, I just want to jump in on that. It's habits. Success leaves habits. Trump is, to go to your example, it might not be him, but he has the habit of having smart people around him to lead him to answers that would result in him getting, a $750 tax bill, which, if anybody has money, I could use those same accountants. DJ, that starving artist. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's habits. It's having good habits. And if you're in the habit of being happy, if you're in the habit of keeping good people around you, if you're in the habit of keeping smart people around you, I always love the quote that you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if you look around and you don't like the 5 people you spend the most time with, it might be time to change that habit.
Yeah. And so before we move on to the next question, anyone else want to, jump in on a comment about that, about the balance between comparing, like unhealthy comparisons versus like healthy comparisons where you're learning strategies?
Well, yeah, it comes down to what questions are you asking? If you want to emulate someone, you say, what can I learn from them? As opposed to, how come do I suck because I'm not them?
Good point.
What can I learn from them? And pick someone that you really want to emulate. I mean, you can emulate Trump if you want, but honestly, he doesn't look like a happy person to me.
That's true.
I'd like to be happy in my life. I'd like a lot of money. I want to pay a lot of money. I find the more people actually throw into the system generously, the happier they are. I don't want to pay $750 in taxes. There were times when I paid no taxes. It was horrible paying no taxes. Horrible. Man, when I see my credit card fees, the fees I have to pay for my merchant account, when they're high, that's great, because that means I made a lot of money. It means I'm giving a lot of money. That's great. That's what makes all of this go around. And then I look at people that at least seem joyful. I get that we're looking at a snapshot, like someone said, the highlight reel. But I look at them and go, what can I learn from them? Not my old conversation. Well, I suck because I'm not there yet. I was 3 blocks from the beach. How can I get 2 blocks, 1 block? But what can I learn from that person that's doing something I want to do that's paved the way for me? Ask the right questions and follow the right person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. Question number 5. Question number 5. Here it is. It goes, do you have any advice for friends, family members, teachers, etc., for helping those around them through hard times? One thing I would say is be transparent. I think that transparency is power. Going back to what we had mentioned before about how, when people see your struggle, they can feel comfort and know that they're not alone and that there's hope. Angela?
One thing that I just want to just really hit on is the power of just touch and just checking in, right? Asking those questions, calling. I counsel, teens. One of the things that they also want is for someone to check in versus constantly stating to do, right? Because again, we're under a lot of pressure. So if I just check in and say, hey, how you doing? Even with my oldest daughter, she's home, virtual fatigue. She's had a couple of emotional kind of like breakdowns. But what we have seen powerful is the power of touch, the power of a hug, the power of saying it's gonna be okay, right? And so the check-ins are something that we have to constantly do, just not for ourselves and our family, but for others as well. Grandparents, those that are in our families, because it goes a long way. And also it opens room for other potential discussions. Just by asking that question, you don't know what a person is going through unless you open that question with empathy, right? And then you never know what their conversation is going to lead to.
Fabian?
I would say it's about allowing people to be seen and heard. So especially, with everything that's going on, when you are struggling, or if you are struggling, it's not always easy to necessarily reach out to someone and say like, hey, I need help. So if you do have someone in front of you and they've reached out and they want some time from you, or they want, just to chat with you, take the time to really see and hear them. Allow them the space to actually speak about their life and what it is that they're going through. Because when you give people the space, then they can actually feel more, comfortable and safe in the environment to maybe open up about some of the things that they're struggling with.
Paula?
Again, I would agree. I think that it's important to check in with people. And then when you do check in, make sure that you're being there. A lot of times people aren't going to ask for help. And then we're so programmed when someone says, hey, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine, thank you. How are you? It's like an automated response. So checking in really means that you're willing to take a step back, pay attention to their body language, and see, are they really okay? Because usually you can kind of pick up on that if you're paying attention. So you have to be willing to be there for other people. And a lot of times that's one thing that we need and don't get, especially when it comes to kids. As parents, we're trying to hustle and do so many things, and we often miss those moments to pay attention and check in with our children. You'll say, how's your day? Well, Mom, I was like, oh, okay, we got to eat dinner. I got to do this. We got to get you to practice, or we got to do whatever it is. And we're running around and we don't take a moment. So another good thing for families to do is really try to make sure you sit down together every night and eat dinner together as a family. That's an excellent place to check in. It provides a comfort level for everybody in the room to know, like, these people are here for me on a daily basis, regardless of what's happening. And it just sets a good tone. And again, we're always in such a rush to do everything and go every place that we lose sight of the small things. So really just be there for each other.
Jonathan?
Practice kindness. Practice kindness to your friend. And you can even ask in the morning. I spoke about questions. So morning routine, which was mentioned. How can I practice kindness today? Who needs my kindness today? You will get the answers. And I said before to one of the questions that there's nothing wrong with you and you are not broken. There's nothing wrong with your friend either. They are not broken, and they don't need to be fixed. They can be helped, yes, but they're not broken. They don't need to be fixed. Can you be there as a support for them, just as they are? They are imperfectly perfect or perfectly imperfect, right? We all are. So can you hold space for their imperfect perfection, just the way they are? Because that's what they need first. We can't always instantly change into something different. Sometimes we need to be where we are and acknowledge it, then make the change. Can you be the one to help them acknowledge where they are and give them the unconditional love that they need in this moment?
Mike?
For me, I think the best piece of advice that I could give is giving anyone the platform to grow from. I think that when there are hard times, people kind of disappear into their own dark worlds, and giving them the platform, if it is from a walk to, you know, taking to them to the gym, to baking, to cooking, to doing a Zoom call, you know what I mean? I'll give you for me, I have 11 best friends from home in New York, and we Zoom every single week at least once to kind of bring us all back to our roots. Some have families, some have crazy hardcore careers, but it's giving us the platform to be, you know, 13, 14, 15, 16 again, and just kind of ball bust and have fun, and, you know, really smile and laugh and tell stories. And that that in and of itself is therapy, just because it brings me back to my roots and who I am and the people that I grew up with and the love that's still there. Even though I'm only a screen touch away, it's one of those things where having that interaction, having that platform, whatever it is the best piece of advice I could give. But I got to get jumping, everybody. It was really nice to meet everybody. And stay positive. And I always say this: stay sane, everybody. Have a great rest of the Zoom call. Thank you.
Guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
All right. And if guys, whoever needs to jump off, that's fine. You know, it's fine. Feel free, you know, to disconnect whenever, you know. Jen.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Mike said, and also Jonathan. And I have two P's. The first one is permission. Like everyone already said, I think sometimes people are afraid to ask. I think also people feel like they don't want to burden others. Oh, they don't want to hear about this. Oh, I don't want to tell you. And so, like people said, create that platform. But we also have to create that permission so that people feel free to freely share. Otherwise, they just keep it all, you know, bottled up. And then the other P I would add is to be present, like what's already been said. Because just like what Paula said, it's like, how many times have, you know, like, oh, okay, yeah, that's great. It's like, did you really care? Are you just asking because that's part of the social norm that we're supposed to say, hey, how are you? Are you present? And I know, again, like we've been saying here for the last hour, you know, we got to slow down. Yes, be busy. Yes, be productive. Do take action, but have that balance and have presence. Be present and really show that empathy that we care because we are present in that moment. And you know, some of us, you know, may have that extra time, and so there's no excuse at this point. But for some people who are still busy, maybe some of us didn't, you know, skip a beat. It's even more that we need to learn how to be present and show people that we really care and practice kindness. Not only to one another, but especially to ourselves. There's a lot of unforgiveness, even especially towards ourselves. So we need to practice all these things. It's all these P words. But with that said, I also want to share some things that have been put in the chat. And again, Rosette, you've been so awesome in participating. She said, yes, unconditional positive regard. Very, very important. And asking open-ended questions and have that good wait time. So again, thank you for sharing that, Rosette, and for participating. And so guys, keep it coming. If you have anything to share, input, you have a question, please drop it into the comments and we'll catch it and share that.
Yes, excellent. All right, question number 6. But before we go, I know some of you might have to run. No worries if you have to just disconnect. You don't even have to say bye. You could just disconnect, and it's real smooth. And here's what we got to do, though. We got to keep the responses now to 30 seconds, all right? Let's keep it rolling. 30 seconds. It's like a rapid fire, right? All right, so here it is. Number 6, I have a friend who is really struggling with her mental health right now. And what are some ways I can support her without seeming too intrusive? By the way, I think some of these questions might overlap, and so it's okay. But real quick, so I'm going to take my less than 30 seconds and say, I think that a lot of it has to do with just trying to communicate with people on the level that is at their comfort level. And then once you're there, kind of look for open doors to go deeper into their life. But don't go deep automatic without easing into it, because people need their space. Angela?
Be present. I think what we've been saying, be present with your friend. We don't even have to be intrusive. We don't even have to talk about what's wrong or what's going on. We can talk about other things. You know, if you know what makes her happy, try to do something in regards to uplift her. And so be present. And that's what we're talking about. Just be present, out without being intrusive.
Fabian?
Yeah, I think I would just, echo that. I think it's about really just simply being there for the person and taking the time to give them the gift of your presence. And that doesn't always mean discussing all of the problems. For some people, they don't enjoy discussing the problems, but they would like a, welcome distraction potentially. So just be there for them.
Mm-hmm. Paula?
I would echo the same thing. It's just important to make sure you do that check-in and then be ready to listen. And if they need a shoulder, be a shoulder. If they need a hug, give them a hug. If they just want to just sit in silence together, do that. Mm-hmm. So be there.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan?
Yeah, just let them know they're perfect the way they are. I see you, and I love you just the way you are.
Mm-hmm. Jen?
Ditto. Everybody said it already.
Yes. Number 7. I've noticed that sometimes when my friends are struggling with their mental health, they ignore doing little things like getting out of bed, taking showers, or even getting dressed. What are some ways I can help them get back into their daily routines? I think one idea is this, is that, mindsets are contagious, and how, we rise to the level of our peer group. And so I think one of the things is just by your example, you can help encourage someone, and try to get around them other friends. And by their example too, you guys can help to uplift them so that they feel encouraged to live up to that standard. Fabian?
I think accountability is a great one. So if someone is kind of, not having the motivation to kind of get up, get dressed and do things with their life, having, you as a friend to be able to say to them, hey, why don't we take a morning, a half an hour morning walk this week? We'll do that 5 times, or we'll do that 3 times. And then they know, okay, Tuesday, Wednesdays, Fridays, I need to meet with that friend. So that means I am going to need to shower. I am going to need to get out of bed at a certain time. I am going to need to be there and show up because I promised that to somebody else. So I think accountability is a big one.
And Paula?
Yeah, I agree. Accountability, but also just keeping in touch. People isolate themselves when they're struggling with mental health issues. And if they're at a point where they're not feeling motivated to get up and shower, then they're probably also pulling away from everyone. So keep in touch. If you notice a friend that you normally talk to regularly suddenly isn't available too often, make sure that you do reach out, and then see if they will participate in some sort of activity with you, because that will get them motivated to get up and get out of the house.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan?
Acceptance and persistence. Accept them just as they are. And yes, you got to try and get them off the couch. Be persistent. Invite them to the nature walk or whatever you're doing. They're going to say no the first 5 or 10 times. Keep calling them. Don't forget about them. Call them the next time. 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 Until one day they're going to go, okay, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm. Jen?
Yeah, I just, everything, awesome. I want to just read some of the comments that some of our participants have chimed in on. So Rosette said, yes, sometimes your presence is all the gift or help that he or she needs. And I think we overlook that often, where we think that, oh, what am I going to do? What kind of significance do I have? And we really overlook that. Sometimes the biggest gift is your time. That's the one thing you cannot make more of. That is a commodity that you cannot multiply or earn or get back. So value that and understand there's so much power in giving the gift of time to be present with somebody. She also said, asking, how can I help you? How can I be a good friend to you? This is so great. Thank you, Lance, for putting this together. And Mary Ellen also said, this is awesome. I wish I would have caught this when I started. Are there going to be more Zooms like this? So thank you for those comments, ladies.
Every month. Yes, once a month. Awesome. So now, number 8, quarantining has been really hard for my friends recently because of their mental health. What are some ways we can stay in touch without breaking social distancing rules? The obvious one is Zoom calls, right? You can connect through Zoom calls. Any other ideas, Fabian?
Yeah, actually, I've been working with a company that do virtual events. So take a look. I mean, it's a UK-based company, but there are a lot of people that are now hosting virtual events. So plan something fun to do with your friends. Maybe that might be a cooking event. Maybe that might be a love workshop. Maybe that might be, anything. It could be anything. But think about what kind of virtual event you could attend with your friends and still have fun that way.
Awesome. Paula?
Take advantage of the outdoors. We had a relative we hadn't met before come by and visit, so we put a bunch of chairs 6 feet apart underneath of a tree and all sat outside and got an opportunity to talk. Go for a walk, wearing your masks, trying to keep your social distance. But there are things that you can do so you still see people and feel that connection, but you're staying safe.
Jonathan?
That's it. Get outside. Go for a walk. Go for a hike. Wear your mask. Stay 6 feet apart.
Jen?
I agree. I had to get out, and I'm an ambivert. That's between an introvert and an extrovert. But just being safe, knowing the rules in restaurants. I know every state is different. California seems behind the 8 ball compared to the rest of the country. But I started going to restaurants in the end of June. Keeping your mask on, knowing the rules. When do you have it on? And if you can be safe, then do it. Just like Paula said. They created an environment where they were still able to be present with one another, but they were still wearing the mask. So, and I've done it too. I've done a wine tasting virtually on Zoom. It's crazy. They mailed me the wine and the glasses, and then the person, the wine connoisseur, led us through the wine tasting. There's a lot of ways to be creative.
No wine.
Right.
Yeah, don't do that. I'm talking to the adults.
Message me about that.
And so it's like, again, like I said, be safe, and, follow the rules. There's ways to be safe and still have connection and be amongst one another, and knowing those rules is just so important. But yeah, I think everybody is seeking that connection and that human touch, but obviously you got to go by the rules and be safe.
Question number 9. Sometimes I can get super overwhelmed if all of the things I need to do are just scrambling in my head. What are some ways I can keep my work organized? One thing that I would suggest is, write down a list, try to break it down into smaller steps. And here's the thing, break it down into smaller steps. And as you accomplish it, celebrate the minor wins as you go along. Fabian?
Okay, so I'm obsessed with being organized, and it's my favorite thing. So I would say there's an amazing tool called Asana. I don't know if any of you know of it or use it, but it literally changed my life when I started using that tool. It is an online tool. It's free. You can go in there. So if you've got like homework, schoolwork, extracurricular activities, all of this kind of stuff, you can set up different kinds of projects. So as Lance said, instead of thinking like an actual written down list, this is kind of like your virtual to-do list online. So you can set up projects for schoolwork via different kinds of categories. You can set up things like your extracurricular activities. You can set up personal to-do lists. You can have them all categorized. You can put them in line by line so you know what it is that you're doing, what date you need to do them, what time you need to do them, and you can even set reoccurring tasks. So if it's stuff that you have to do on a regular basis, they just keep popping up. So each day for me, My life is so simple now because I just wake up, look at Asana, and it really tells me exactly what to do.
Paula?
I agree with doing the lists, however you put them together. But I think one thing that's important when you're feeling overwhelmed is to get some grounding. So put your feet flat on the ground, put your hands on your legs or on your belly, close your eyes and take some really deep, slow breaths, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And once you do that 5 times, maybe 10 times, or you can time it 30 seconds to a minute, it just helps to bring that anxiety level down, helps to calm you. You'd be amazed. You open your eyes and it's like, okay, this is what I need to do. And then you can write your list and everything sort of feels a little bit safer, a little bit better. So just remember to breathe.
Jonathan?
Yes to a mindfulness practice. Just go to YouTube, type in mindfulness meditation, pick any of them. It doesn't matter. Pick the short one if you need to, 3 minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute. That's all you need. Do that. Yes, get it out of your head, put it on paper. I don't recommend a to-do list. I recommend a get-to-do list because you get to do these things. Give it that positive aspect. And here's the thing. Sometimes you write down a list, it's a long list, and that itself then becomes overwhelming. Remember, you can only do one thing at a time. We're back to questions. Simply ask, what's the one thing I can do right now to bring me closer to my goal? One thing. Ignore everything else. When that's done, ask the question again. What's one thing I can do right now?
Awesome. Jen?
I love what Jonathan said, and all of you. That's the advantage of me going last. And I love that he calls it what did you call it, Jonathan? Not the to-do list, the what?
The get-to-do list.
The get-to-do list. Because how many of us have done this? You write that list and none of it gets done. So I'm a money coach and I had to help people learn how to budget. And so when you learn how to budget, you assign the dollar to something. Okay, it's going to pay for food. It's going to pay for a restaurant. It's going to pay for clothing. You have to do the same thing with these tasks. If you do not assign it a time for when it's going to get done, it probably won't get done. And that has been a game changer for me. I have, Fabian, I also have Asana. And if you are a Google Calendar user, this was a game changer for me, task. And then you just slide that task to the calendar and now you have that task designated for a time. And it gets done because you're being told when you're supposed to do that thing. And I also love what Jonathan said. And I have a team meeting every day, and we are reviewing Jim Rohn's The One Thing. And that's what we do in our team huddle. We just say, because we all got a million things to do, but every day we ask each other, what's the one thing that you're going to focus on so that you can feel that you won the day? And I challenge you all to do that as well.
Question number 10. My close friend doesn't have the best relationship with her parents and is having a hard time being quarantined with them. Asking for her, what are some tips to dealing with being stuck in your house while you have a strained relationship with your family? One thing I would like to suggest is keep in mind that people are doing the best they can with the resources they have. And I think that mindset builds empathy. And I think it's very important that we always replace judgment with empathy. You know, we have different personalities, different habits, different things going on. And so it's hard to deal with certain people. It's true. But I think that one of the things that will help us to deal with people that are difficult to deal with is if we understand that if we understand that they're doing the best they can with the resources they have. And if they knew better, they would do better. And that just like they have flaws, we also have flaws, but often we can see their flaws more clearly than we can see our flaws. And so just like we want forgiveness, let's also give forgiveness to others. Fabian?
Yeah, Lance, I'd really just echo what you say. I think, you know, when you're stuck in the house, you are with your family, you've got some strained relationships, but one of the things you're going to want to do is take some time out potentially to just focus on yourself. I think the biggest game changer is never expecting that anybody else is going to change. The only thing that can change is you and your thoughts and your feelings about the situation. So focus on yourself first and figure out how you can navigate that relationship no matter how kind of strange it is.
Paula?
So, quick story, real quick. This summer, there were 11 people in my house. I think I mentioned I live with my parents and my grandmother, who's 100 years old. My daughter was here with her friend, my son, and my other daughter, and my sister and her 2 kids, and a dog and a cat. Fortunately, we do have a pretty decent sized house, but still, it was hard to find space for yourself. And my family actually, we're blessed. We get along extremely well. But let me tell you, when you are in quarantine with that many people, you need space. So I was in the same position as this was asked about in this question, like how can I, and again, I didn't have a strained relationship, but I was stuck in the house with a whole lot of people. I shared my room with my sister this summer, love her dearly, but like my room is usually my space and I didn't have that. So I took walks every day. I would go out and take a walk. I walked 4 to 5 to 6 miles, sometimes 8. So I would be gone for a while, an hour, 2 hours. I was doing meetings on my walks. I sometimes was doing my Zoom calls with clients on my walks. I was doing trainings on my walks, but my walks were outside of the house. They were away from everybody else, and it was time to myself. So you have to make time for self-care. That's really what I'm getting at. And find a time, a space, a place somehow where you can have some time alone and just be by yourself and take care of yourself and do something you enjoy. Walk, write, paint, draw, color, put together Legos. It doesn't matter. Just something that you're doing for yourself.
Jonathan?
Goes back to acceptance in 2 sides. One is acceptance for your parents. You know, Louise Hay says we're all victims of victims. Your parents were victims of their childhood, their upbringing, based on what their parents knew, based on the victimhood of them, their parents. It goes on and on and on. And now there's you. So you're also a victim of victims. So you have to understand that, and you have to hold some acceptance and compassion for them. Doesn't make them right, to be clear. Does not make them right. But you still have to hold acceptance for them. And then you have to begin to accept the difficult emotions in you. You have frustration, you have resentment, you have anger. Those are not negative emotions. There is no such thing as a negative emotion. So when you feel those, you have to be with yourself and say, anger, I see you, I hear you, I will not fight you. I will be here for as long as you need me to be here. Say it with sadness, resentment, it works for all of them. Yes, you have these feelings, and the easiest way to deal with your difficult emotions are not to negate them or to try and get rid of them, but simply to see them and stop fighting with yourself.
Jen?
I resonate with what Paula said about the walks. I think you get, let's be real, you get to a point where like, I have just got to get out of this place. I'm going to go crazy. She's nodding her head. So I get you, girl. I get it. And, you know, I've had, you know, I've experienced that to some level at some points in my life, and it wasn't COVID, but similarly, you know, there were times where I'm like, I got to get out of the house. I mean, even at one point in my life, it was my ex-husband. And you do have to create these moments. Like if you can get away in your room, and if it can't be in there, maybe you do have to, you know, get out, literally get out of the house and take a walk and breathe. Like I said in the beginning, be a part of nature. Sometimes you just need to have that reconnection. And here's an idea I'm just going to throw out there. Consider altering your schedule. So what do I mean by that? Maybe you wake up earlier than everybody else. So that's what I do. I'm like the first to be awake, and it's like there are no cars. It is so quiet. The sun's not even up. I get up around 4 in the morning. I'm like an East Coast time, and I'm on the Pacific South, you know, Standard Time. But you know, I'm up so early. You know, nobody really bothers me. My phone is on Do Not Disturb. I have all this time to myself in the morning, and then at night, like I sleep early. So if that's a schedule shift compared to everybody else in your house, that might work for you. So you have to be creative and find these tips to change your environment, literally you walking out of it and coming back, or maybe even shifting your time so that you have less interaction alongside with everything else, with acceptance and kindness and understanding. But then there also has to be that component of you taking action to literally change it for you so that you can cope with the situation while you're still there.
Mm-hmm. Question number 11. It is no secret that the coronavirus is rapidly spreading and has caused millions of deaths just this year. I myself personally know more than a few families who've experienced this virus and even rushed to the hospital in a life-death situation after acquiring it. Since it takes 5 to 12 days for symptoms to show, you never truly know if you have it. After testing positive, people have to deal with the guilt of spreading this deadly virus to their close family and friends. How do you think teenagers could deal with such guilt, especially after getting their parents, who are probably at high risk, sick? I think one of the things to keep in mind is that, you know, we all are doing the best we can with the information we have. And as we know better, we do better. I think that also it's important to keep in mind that good judgment comes from experience, and often experience comes from bad judgment. And so we make mistakes. We might not, there might be situations where people, knew that they should be wearing a mask, but they didn't wear a mask, and then they got somebody sick, or they knew that they should have been social distancing and they didn't, and then they got somebody sick and everything. But I think that the key is to realize that, we all are doing the best we can, and it's never too late to press the reset button and start completely over again. Paula?
I would agree. We're all doing the best that we can. This is a brand new situation for all of us. Never in any of our lifetimes, and I mentioned my grandmother is 100, and not in her lifetime either has she experienced a worldwide pandemic like this. So you do the best that you can. You take the precautions that you are aware that you should be taking, and if someone in your family gets sick, you do what you can to be there for them and help them to get through it and hopefully recover from it. But really, there's not a whole lot that any of us can do except try to take the necessary precautions. And if you're a person of faith and someone gets sick, pray.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan?
Forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel guilty, you forgive. We've been taught to forgive others. Important, and equally important, maybe more important, forgiving yourself.
Yes.
I practice forgiveness every single day. It goes like this. I forgive myself and all others who have hurt or offended me, physically, emotionally, or monetarily, knowingly or unknowingly. I wish no one any harm, and I release myself from any future pain.
Awesome.
I say this every single night. And I picture my mistakes, and I picture other people's mistakes, and I let it go every single day.
Mm-hmm. Jen?
Can you hear? Oh, there. I had this message that I was muted. Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing if it's already happened. I mean, what's done is done, and you move forward and you do the best that you can and forgive. However, if you are in an opportunity where you can be proactive instead of reactive, understand that. There's many times where I see carelessness and not taking precaution, or thinking like, hey, I'm going to YOLO and do whatever I want. So be mindful, or what kind of attitude and perspective are we taking? So again, like I said, if it's happened, forgive. It's done. Just do what you can and move forward, and be very careful. Keep yourself safe. Keep the people in your household safe. But by the same token, if this hasn't happened, because the question kind of sounded like it was projecting future. If that's the case, then knowing what you do know now, be very careful. Be very mindful of what you're dealing with. Are you being safe? Are you being reckless? And keep those things in mind so that you don't have to put yourself through the guilt. So you don't have to practice all this other stuff and be like in regret. So when you can use that information to help you make better decisions moving forward, then you can avoid all these things. But then again, remember, you're doing the best you can with what you know.
Yes. Question number 12. One of my friends is in a relationship that is clearly toxic. She is aware of this. However, she fails to act upon it. The boy is bipolar, and when he's mad, he yells at her, calls her names, and even throws her stuff around, so much that he even had to buy her a new phone once. The girl seeks help every once in a while, but once there is attention to the problem and all the tools, she feels guilty and says she doesn't want to leave him since they have been together for 3 years. I think this girl needs a clear mindset where she visualizes her own dreams and prioritizes her own happiness over his. What are things that this girl should change in her mindset about relationships and life as it goes on? And then how could I, as her friend, help her achieve this? I think that one thing to keep in mind is that we can't change anyone, but we can influence them, right? And so I think that that's something to keep in mind, that we can't change them, but by our examples, because mindsets are contagious, we can influence them. But also too, I would actually be kind of concerned about, you know, making sure that she's not a negative influence on you, you know, so try to help people, but make sure that if you're trying to, sometimes when you're trying to save a drowning person, sometimes that drowning person can drown you instead of you saving them. So it's a tricky thing, but be very careful with that. So definitely try to help, but just make sure that you maintain some boundaries where people are not bringing you down. Paula?
First, make sure that she's physically safe. As long as she is physically safe, there's not much that you can do. If you feel that she's really not physically safe, you want to do everything you can to try to get her out of that situation into a safe place. Otherwise, unfortunately, when people are in difficult or abusive or toxic relationships, they kind of have to come to their own awareness of that. You want to go in and grab them and take them out of there, but that's generally not productive. They'll end up going back anyway. So the best thing that you can do is what you're doing. Be her friend, be there for her. We talked about that earlier. And as her friend, that means that you see a lot of positive qualities in her. When people are in abusive relationships, they lose their self-esteem as well. So remind her of all of the things that are good about her, that you love about her, the reason why you say that she's your friend.
Jonathan?
Yeah, you keep letting her know she's awesome. And practice self-kindness to yourself. What Lance was saying, you have to model. And say it out loud in front of her. Practice gratitude in front of her. Practice forgiveness in front of her. Practice self-kindness and compassion in front of her. Say good things about yourself in front of her, so she knows that it's okay to say good things about herself. She'll see you. Do a yoga class. Get her to do it with you. Say, I need your help. Get her to help you. I need your help doing a yoga class. I need your help doing a meditation class, even if it's online. So you got to do this with me on Zoom or whatever. There's tons of them online. So you got to go with me because I'm afraid to go alone. Whatever you got to do, get her to do some of those things that will alter her mind.
Jen?
Yeah, I actually see this question often where a friend sees their friend in a toxic relationship, but here's the thing that I see often. I've invested X amount of years and now I don't want to feel like I want to leave because then they feel guilty. And so there's this term I'll share real quick. It's called opportunity cost. And in finance, that means the money that you're going to choose to spend on X thing, like let's say it's this phone, what's the opportunity cost? If I spend it on this item, what did I lose out? I could have invested the $700 somewhere else. And that's the same thing with time. When people look at it like, oh, I'm wasting this time, like, no, but the opportunity cost, how much more time are you going to waste staying in something that's toxic or wasting? You're losing opportunity in what could be. So I just say that to you, whoever wrote this question, for you to understand. But the thing is, there's a wonderful quote I love by Dale Carnegie. It says, a man convinced against his will, okay, this might be a girl. This is a girl. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. And just like Paula said, sometimes we want to love so much and help somebody so much, but sometimes we have to take a step back, because I've been there. I've been in a toxic relationship. I know that how many friends told me like, oh, you need to leave. And then I would rationalize, yeah, but we have a kid. And yeah, it's been 8, 10, 9 years. And now looking back, I should have left earlier. Now it worked out, but but I think the biggest lesson for you as the friend is to understand you can only do so much. The best thing that you can do is just be loving and kind. And like Jonathan said, do those things with your friend, but you also understand we cannot save everybody because people have to want to save themselves first.
Question number 13. My friend was recently telling me about how she felt pressured to have relationship experience before she went to college. What are some things I can tell her to ease her mind? And so it was kind of unclear when she said relationship experience. I'm assuming that she means that like pressured into maybe having sexual experiences before going to college. And so I would say that, you know, we all have to really decide whether are we going to prioritize our values or are we going to prioritize like social acceptance, you know? And I think that, you know, it's so important to prioritize who we are, what our values are, over social acceptance, because in the end, you know, we will regret not living a life that's in alignment with our values and our beliefs. Paula?
So I think that with this one, I'm trying to remember when we reviewed it earlier, one of what I was looking at for an answer, and I'm blanking on it right now. But I would ask questions to gain clarity, because I think the issue with this question that I had was that I wasn't clear on what she meant by relationships. And just like you just said, Lance, I wasn't really clear on what the person was asking about. So I would need to ask questions to gain clarity. And I feel like I'm stealing Jonathan's answer because he always says ask questions. And I'm saying this time, ask questions. Get some clarity so you know exactly what the concern is. Also just be cautious, because we tend to put timelines on ourselves. And, you know, we expect to be at this point in life by this age, and all of that is hogwash. You learn as you live that it's hogwash, but when you're younger, it seems to make perfect sense. So really try to help this person to clarify what it is that they're talking about, and then why they feel like they need to have whatever understanding prior to going to college. What is the pressure for that? So ask questions.
Jonathan?
So I have 30 seconds, and this is a 2-hour class I teach on fitting in versus belonging. It has to do with values. You have to know what your values are. When you honor your values, you live a fulfilling life, period. Don't honor your values, you live an unfulfilling life, period. When you change your values to fit into someone else's situation, you have a miserable life, period. You have to learn to belong. Now, it's true, they might turn you away, and that sucks. But if you try and fit in, you're guaranteed it sucks. If you honor your values and seek belonging, find your group, your tribe. Yes, it might not work, but when it does, beautiful. And you always get to go home with yourself.
Jen?
Jonathan took my word. Values. Yes. Anytime that is compromised, you will feel it. That's that gut, inner spirit talking to you that you are not in congruency. You are not in alignment. And that is a red flag. That is telling you, like, wait a minute. The fact that you even have to question it, and if you have a certain set of values and belief systems and whatnot, if those things are not coming into alignment, that's that feeling that you're questioning. And I just want to, you know, 10 times resonate and just piggyback on what he said. Yes, it is going to suck. It is going to suck if you give in and think. Don't even fool yourself if you think like, well, I'm going to see if it works. It's not. You're going to learn the hard way. Do you want to take the direct path, or do you want to go the scenic route? And so just always remember what he just said about values. And if you compromise that, it's not going to be a good place.
Yes. Question number 14. As a teen, I found it difficult to track my money spending and be able to save money. Can you give me some tips for how to be more money conscious? Well, I would say I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey, right? You know, Dave Ramsey. And this kind of goes back to the whole thing about how success leaves blueprints, right? So you have to have the right mentors. And you know what? Sometimes we might not have mentors like physically, but there's mentors on YouTube, mentors on the radio, or mentors on podcasts and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I would say seek out some good mentors and some good programs so that you can learn tips. And I would highly recommend Dave Ramsey. If you Google Dave Ramsey, you can find a lot of his teachings about money and personal finance. Jonathan?
Well, I'll leave most of it to Jen since she's the money coach, but write it down. Just write everything you spend, write it down. And then as you look at the list, go back to values. Does this honor my value? Am I happy I spent this? Write it down. Make sure that your purchases honor your values.
Yes. Jen?
Oh boy, 30 seconds, man. Do workshops on this stuff. So, Jonathan, I know how you feel. But absolutely what he said, you have to track it. If you have no plan, if you're aiming for nothing, if there's no spending budgeting plan, it's going to just go to nowhere. You're not assigning an assignment for every single dollar, and you have to track it and do that even for a month. Everything you spend, write it down, like he said. Write it down so you consciously are putting pen to paper what it is that you're doing, so you feel that activity. And even try cash, because that is a different emotion when you're using physical cash versus just a transaction using a swipe of a card. And the other thing too, that you want some tips on how to be more money conscious, I will challenge you this. Here's some extra credits. If you can do your money story, if you can sit down and write, what I do an exercise with my clients is a money bio or history, where you write down the earliest recollection of experience with money. For example, I remember my mom gave me $1 when we went to 7-Eleven and she told me I could buy something, and I bought a donut, or I bought a lollipop, I bought an Airhead candy thingy, whatever it is. And then track that all the way up into your current age, and it will help you start to see patterns. But that's an exercise I think is really good for people to do, and especially for you, as being young, understanding like, oh, I didn't realize. You might see some revelations where you don't realize that you're doing certain things because of something that has been ingrained in you that you learned from your mom or your dad, or just by simple observation. So doing those things are just sitting down and tracking it, and then also taking a look at your habits and where do they come from, because those are subconscious patterns that might be revealed to you.
That's excellent. Excellent. So now we're down to the final question. The final question, the 15th question. Before we jump into the final question, I want to go around real quick, and I want you guys to share, where can people connect with you online? So like with me, my stage name is Clay Smile. And so basically you can connect with me online by searching Clay Smile on like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or whatever. Clay Smile is how you can connect me, or claysmile.com is my website. Jonathan, where can people connect with you online?
Go to selfloverevolution.com. There's a button there. It says join the revolution, selfloverevolution.com. Or if you're on Facebook, YouTube, Google Jonathan Troen and you'll find me.
Awesome. And Jen, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Jen Money Coach, the @ Jen Money Coach. That's one N on Jen, or just go to jenmoneycoach.com. And I will drop our handles and stuff in the comments.
Awesome. Very good. And Jen, you have a YouTube channel too, right? We have some videos, right, on this stuff. What's your YouTube channel?
It's still Jen Fontanilla. So
okay. Oh, awesome.
I'll drop the link.
We'll put the link in. All right, for the YouTube. Excellent. Excellent. Awesome. All right, guys. So we're down to the final question. Here it is. Some of my friends have told me that they felt peer pressure to try drugs or alcohol, but don't really want to. What can I tell them to help them feel safe? I think one of the things that to keep in mind is that, negative influences will really derail our potential. And it's so important to really monitor the influences that are in our life, and to really make sure that the influences that are in our life are in alignment to where we want to go, in alignment with our values and our beliefs and our goals and our dreams. Alignment is so very key. And I think that we have to be careful and really monitor the influences that are in our life to make sure that those influences are healthy influences, meaning that those influences are helping us to, get to where we want to go in our life. Jonathan?
It comes down to values again. Simply honor your values. That's it. Model it for your friends and let them know, hey, you're safe with me. I got your back.
Awesome. Jen?
I agree again with Jonathan. It does come to your values, because that's got to be your North Star. If you haven't taken the time to stop and understand what your values are, if you've never written them down, if you've never given it time, you don't have anything leading you. You don't have that North Star to keep you on the right straight path. And it's so important for you to evaluate those things. Otherwise you're just going, you're just flipping here and there where the wind goes. And one thing that's really amazing, when I've seen, especially young people, kids, millennials, where they're so strong in conviction in their faith or their values or their beliefs or whatever it is, there is something that the people around you, we talked about earlier, I believe it was Jonathan talking about the 5 people around you, people will start to notice like, wow, that person has so much character. It's because you are led by your values and morals and your standards, and that you garner so much respect, because it's not this thing where like, oh, you're just easily swayed, you're easily influenced, because you have that North Star, your values guiding you. So just keep that in mind. That have you even determined what those values are, so that you're not easily influenced to go in the direction that does not align with who you are.
That's awesome. Excellent. Wow. Thank you guys. Thank you so much to Jen and Jonathan and to the other adults that were on earlier. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been the first episode of The Village, where various adults answer teenage questions. And I'm just so excited. And guys, we're going to be doing this at least once a month. So, and if you want to be on the next episode, please reach out to me. And I'm really excited to keep things going, because I really feel as though there's a lot of value in having adults come together from different backgrounds and just having them respond to teenage questions, because we want to build that sense of transparency, and that we want to build the communication between the older generations and the younger generations. I think it's so key to, for all of us to have that way of expressing positive insights and encouragement. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next month for the next episode of The Village. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
See you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.